Howdy, I'm Shannon and I used to be a hoarder. Welcome back, I'm Shannon and this is the Wanderluster, where together we explore topics that will help spark your sense of adventure so you can live an amazing life on your own terms. Today I'm going to be sharing my experience growing up as a hoarder and the pivot points I've had along the way, the learnings, the trips, the twists and turns, and all of the learnings and experiences I've had along the way. Because if you haven't seen my channel before, I'm actually doing a shopping ban for 2019, which means I'm not going to buy anything I do not need, and anything that I do buy will be either edible, because I need it to survive, or to replace things I've used up. I'm doing the shopping ban for the year because I want to be more intentional about what I bring into my space and what I have around me. And I'll get into my hoarding story a little bit in a minute, but if you would like to make sure you don't miss an update from me and follow along with my 2019 shopping ban journey, I would absolutely love to have you subscribe to my channel. I'll be posting weekly updates on a variety of topics and updates about my shopping ban along the way, so I would absolutely love to have you join along. So a bit about me, I grew up as a hoarder in Southern California, and my mother was actually a hoarder. She is no longer with us. She passed away a few years ago, and it's been something I'm personally working through and haven't talked too much personally about or publicly about because my relationship with her was challenging and hard, and I'm still working through that as an adult. But I was raised in a hoarding situation where I had a very unhealthy attachment to things, to the point where not only in the rest of the house were things stacked floor to ceiling, every drawer was full of stuff, every pantry and linen closet, like you would open the door and things would go flying out. And that translated into my own personal space growing up, into my bedroom. I had things in every drawer, under the bed, on the bed. I would just make room for myself to get ready at night. I would, open my closet and things would tumble out. I would even have pathways from my door to my bed where I could walk, but there was just junk and clutter everywhere. My experience with hoarding was so unhealthy that every time I tried to declutter as a kid, I was unsuccessful at it. It even got to the point where when I would try to get rid of things, I had this unhealthy attachment that I would imagine the item, and this is me as an 8-year-old, I would imagine the item, whether it was a teddy bear or a book or a pen, I would imagine it being in the dumpster or even at a thrift shop, and I was like, well, nobody will love it. It deserves to be loved. And that really was a sense of lack that I had, a sense of fear that was instilled in me that I picked up along the way of being disrespectful to the things I had by getting rid of them. I really wish I would have had the KonMari method earlier in life, where you can, in her book, she talks about thanking the item and then releasing it because the item has served its purpose. But for me, I never had that letting go capacity whatsoever. I would have things that, maybe I was too old for teddy bears or Barbies, but I had this guilt of literally letting it go. And even if I thought maybe another kid would enjoy it, I worried about the item. It amazes me how scared I was and how inanimate objects had a personality. It was like Toy Story on crack in a very unhealthy way, where I just couldn't part with things because I found it disturbing to let go. The first pivot in my life after this really unhealthy attachment to things came when I was about 15 years old. And I left my mother's home to go live with my paternal grandmother across town. And we put all of my stuff in a flatbed truck and drove across town to move from my mom's house to my paternal grandmother's house. My grandmother was not a hoarder. In fact, she was obsessively clean, like OCD level clean, to the point where if I left a dish in the sink, things got pretty hairy, which is quite a pivot from the life I had led previously. So at age 15, I had packed everything up because I just needed a change of pace. I actually was suicidal for a time, which I haven't really shared with people, but it was a phase of my life that was really dark and really hard. And it led me, in order to save myself, I decided I needed to go find a breath of fresh air and go live with a relative. So that's what I did at age 15. And in the back of my dad's flatbed truck was all of my stuff. And I mean, it took a couple truckloads, to be honest, but my grandmother had a rule that nothing could come into the house until I sorted it and dealt with it. And so that was was the first time I ever recognized that having stuff was a burden. I was not a martyr for my things. Keeping my things would not make me happier. It didn't insulate me from the pain I felt at home. All of a sudden, in this new situation, confronted with the sheer amount of things I had accumulated, even up to age 15, suddenly it was overwhelming. It was the first time I took a step back from my clutter and realized that I did not have the emotional or mental capacity to deal with all the things that came into my space. And by keeping them in my life, it didn't mean that I was respecting them or that I was honoring them. It meant that it was just helping me drown further in this emotional place I was at. For the first time, I didn't feel as depressed. I didn't feel as suicidal as I did as I was younger. But I had to deal with a lot of stuff. And it was the first time I recognized, I don't think fully at that point, but that my stuff, the physical stuff, was a physical encapsulation of the emotions. For those of you who have ever watched Hoarders, hoarding itself is really a way to insulate yourself from your problems. It's a way to accumulate distractions from the pain that you feel. And I think at age 15, that was the first time I recognized that that was exactly what I was doing. Even though I have to say it would be years until I recognized that behavior fully for what it was. It was the first time I took a step back and looked at it with fresh eyes. The second pivot or aha moment I had was actually as I started to run my own business. I've been blogging since 2011 and I've been very fortunate that it's pulled in income. Blogging meant that I had to sometimes record videos like this when I started my YouTube channel. It meant that I needed to take photos for blog posts. It meant that I had to have space to be creative. And I had started to get back into this bad habit, even though I downsized significantly to move to Chicago. I found that these old habits started bubbling up again and I was getting a lot of stuff. But the stuff was getting in the way of me being able to work from home, do my job, and hustle on the side to build my blog. You know, I had camera remotes so I could take photos, and I had 3 or 4 of them because they were small and I would lose them in all my junk. You know, I needed backdrops, I needed folder organizers, I needed lenses. A lot of stuff came into my life and I found that because I wasn't organized, it was costing me a lot in money to replace things I couldn't find, but also in my sanity and in the value of my time. And so I really kind of woke up to this, I would say about a year and some change ago, when I actually went back to Chicago and visited my friend Max. Max lives in a very small format condo, and I realized that I was telling myself a really powerful lie. I was saying that because I was a creative, that I had lenses and lights and backdrops and, you know, editing stuff, that I needed all this clutter in my life because I was a right brain person. I was very artsy, you know, I'm very creative. You know, I'm not a left brain person who's like super organized and analytical. I'm just very emotional and you know, I like to be creative. When I went to visit my friend Max, he's also a creative. He works as I believe a creative director. He's done a lot of graphic design. His photos are amazing. I'm just gonna give a shout out to his Instagram handle because he creates beautiful, beautiful things. And when I put this together with what he was producing to the type of space he has, I had an aha moment. His condo is a very small format in Chicago. It's a very small space. It's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath condo. And his space is intentional. It is organized. It is aesthetically pleasing. It is peaceful. And it is just wonderful. He has everything he needs and nothing he doesn't. He only has shoes that he really enjoys. He only has art on the walls or things around his space if they serve a purpose and make him feel at home. I remember at one point we were watching a movie and I was a little cold and he was like, oh, let me get you a blanket, and literally had a basket with 3 blankets for me to choose from. Not 50 blankets like I have, just 3 that did the job, that were warm and cozy and made me feel welcomed in his space and at home without drowning in the clutter. And I had this aha moment that maybe I was giving myself the excuse of, oh, well, I'm right brain creative, that's why I need all this crap in my life. Juxtaposing that with how Max lives his life, how my friend lives his life, I was like, no, dude, this is an excuse. He is so much more productive when he's organized. He's so much more productive when he feels like his space represents who he is. And he's not hiding behind anything. He's productive, he loves what he does, and his space and his work shows for it. And I really wanted to move towards a place where I could be more of that and less of just, you know, the typical artsy, cluttered, crazy person that has crap everywhere. I'm leaning into the new way of thinking that I can be creative and organized too. The final thing that helped me get away from my hoarding roots and really examine that behavior and that lifestyle was when I finally bought my own home. There's something about when you start your own family or you buy your own home or you start to write your own chapter that really makes you be introspective about your past. And I bought this house and it was exactly what I dreamed of. It has a fenced-in yard, a pecan tree, and it has a clawfoot tub, which I absolutely love. And I realized that even though my upbringing was not ideal and it was challenging and it left me with a lot of emotional baggage and unuseful habits, that this home is a new place for me to write a chapter of my own. And I realized that I no longer had to carry in those bad habits, but it would require me to take a good hard look at my behavior, my attachment to things, and my habits to make sure that I don't repeat the way I was brought up and bring that type of hoarding mentality into my life now. When I moved from my apartment into this home, I did not do a purge before I moved here and just threw everything into a moving truck and got the house, because if you've seen my other video about my down payment scam, it was a very stressful time. But as I started to make my house a home, I thought very critically of what I wanted my house to feel like and how I wanted people to feel when they came into my house. And I started to realize, if you've seen my other videos, that I looked into my office and I had so much crap in there that the office wasn't even useful. I wanted to rent out that room, not as an office, but for another Airbnb or for a full-time renter. And I gave myself the excuse of like, oh, I just have too much stuff. And then I was like, wow, I'm gonna miss out on a lot of potential income, or at least having a usable space for myself, because I'm hiding behind my stuff still. And I realized that like this home is a new chapter for me to start over, and I have to hold myself accountable that the past is the past. And even though there was a time and, up to 15 years of my life that I lived in a hoarding situation, that does not have to be the person I am now. And I can think critically about how I live my life now, and I can start today to live a better life. And of course there will be false starts, there will be challenges, there will be missteps along the way, but I have to be the one to hold myself accountable. And if I really want a more beautiful, a more joyfully sparked life, a more fulfilled relationship with myself and others, with a lot of self-love and intentionality, I have to examine my stuff. And that means that minimalism speaks to me. I like the parameters of minimalism. It means that I slow down and I think clearly about what I'm doing and what I bring into my life, and also what I get rid of. And so, that's where I'm at now. Honestly, I'm still unpacking a lot of my upbringing as a hoarder. I get some of the things from my previous life now that my mother's passed away. My wonderful stepfather sends me things all the time, some baby photos, albums, shoes, old tapes, things like that. And I've really been intentional about what I keep and what I get rid of. I realize that my stuff does not define me. It doesn't have to. And that by getting rid of things, it doesn't mean that I disrespect the things or the person, or that I have to live in a state of fear and lack. Just leaning into abundance and realizing that I'll be okay, that there's more where that came from. I'm not gonna run out, I'm not gonna be without, and that by letting go of a couple things, it doesn't mean that I don't love someone or love something or the giver of the item. It just means that I have the item, I thank it, and I let it go, and that's okay too. Of course, this is a journey from hoarding to minimalism, and I'm not there yet. I'm constantly evaluating my upbringing, thinking about it, and working through not only the physical baggage, but the emotional baggage as well, because there's a lot. But I'm very hopeful of the road ahead, and I'm so grateful that I've been able to take a step back. There have been so many pivotal moments in my life that influenced me and that are helping to get where I need to go. And of course, I hope you'll join with me on that journey a little bit this year too, as I embark on my shopping ban. I would love to have you join me if you would like to do a shopping ban for just a week, a month, a year, whatever speaks to you, because we're all in this together. I'm going to be uploading new videos along the way, so I hope you'll join me. And guys, thanks so much for taking time out of your day to watch this video. If you have any experience with hoarding or any fear, lack mentality, or if you're on a journey towards minimalism, I would love to hear from you. Getting connected to other people on this similar journey means the absolute world to me, and I get so inspired hearing from you. So I hope you'll leave me a comment below. And well, I guess that does it for this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay beautiful, stay awesome, spark your wonder, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.